Hello, this is Jeff from the future. This episode was recorded in 2020 as part of an original attempt at a music review podcast. The original idea was to discuss new music as it was being released, but 2020 being what it was, brought quite a few album postponements and other complications. So this series continued through 2020 and into 2021. We are now here in 2022 at the time I am recording this. So what you are about to listen to is not the Sound Judgment podcast, but an early iteration. Also, being that it was recorded more than 2 years ago now, some of our thoughts and opinions may have changed, considering that we are, in fact, people who are continuously trying to learn and better ourselves. Enjoy the show.
I mean, all you really need in this life is a hot cup of tea and some Poppy.
Well, yeah, obviously, this is the PoppyCast, where every week we talk about Poppy and occasionally other things, but it's centered around Poppy.
Hi, I'm Chris.
And I'm Jeff, and this is the New Music Challenge podcast.
Every week we're going to challenge each other to listen to some new albums from this year.
But not just any new releases, we're trying to take each other out of our comfort zones as much as we can.
So whether you want to hear a metalhead discuss the newest pop release,
or a pretentious wannabe blues musician review the hardest new metal album, this is the show for you.
Unfortunately, though, we're not starting with Poppy.
I know we're not starting with Poppy.
We're saving the best for last.
I'm gonna be honest with you here. You're not wrong. Like, spoiler alert, I have the same feelings. Not that I hate everything else. We'll get to that, obviously. But, like, let's face it. Poppy's probably the most unique thing we've covered so far this year.
Oh, yeah. I like to start strong on these podcasts, and I think we're really good at analyzing lyrics, so I thought a really good start would be a Russian pop album with absolutely no American.
Already in Russian. Yeah, there's not a single word of in English.
Yeah.
And let's face it, being the filthy Americans we are, we only really speak English. I am an absolute toddler in Russian. Or as a friend of mine would say, I speak Russian the same way a dog does. I understand more than I can say, which I think is a pretty good description of it.
Okay.
Also, my reading is miserable. I'm really bad at reading Russian. So my apologies for every mispronunciation here.
Can you pronounce this album title?
НОВЫЙ РАССВЕТ?
Ooh.
Okay, now again, is my pronunciation correct? I don't know. I'd have to, ask a friend of mine, hey, how incorrect am I saying this? But I can read the titles of the songs. I can give you a rough idea of what they translate to after some work, but, am I fully correct? No. I guarantee if someone who actually spoke Russian listened to me, they'd be like, you are so American sounding it hurts.
That was very nice, though. I was impressed. That said, I don't know a lick of Russian.
That's totally fine. So I was talking about this to another friend of mine from Singapore about this whole weird thing that we Americans do where, for some reason, people seem to obsess over usually the country that, their family comes from generations ago.
Uh-huh.
But for some reason, despite the fact that I don't think there's a single percentage of Russian in me, that's my, country of focus for some reason. Not England or Ireland or France or Germany where, my family actually comes from. No, that would make too much sense.
Ireland is pretty fucking dope, though.
I mean, don't get me wrong, but, the thing is, Ireland's also easy to learn about because of, the lack of language barrier.
Right.
Until you're getting into, when they were actually speaking, the Irish Gaelic.
I was going to say, we can learn Gaelic.
I have no desire to learn Gaelic. I learned to sing a few songs in Gaelic, and that was a chore in itself, so I'm not ever doing it. Anyway, on to НОВЫЙ РАССВЕТ by Anivar, which it roughly translates to either New Sunrise or New Dawn. I'm a little confused on the translation here because I'm not that smart. In short, it is a Russian, dance pop album. It's an EP, actually, so I'm sure you noticed it's only 8 songs. It's 35 minutes long.
I was going to say, it is delightfully short.
Yeah, I kind of figured, and that's kind of why I figured this was a good one. Also, again, because it is an EP, we're doing that weird little, what's the word I'm looking for that we're using, like, the exceptions to our rules here.
We're bending them a little.
Most of these songs were actually released last year as singles.
I did actually notice that on Spotify that all of the songs had like their own little singles.
Yeah, so like even though this album just came out, as I was listening to it, I'm listening to it going like I know most of these already. So without getting into too much, because I don't want to, in typical fashion, I don't want to feed you opinions here. What are your thoughts, Chris?
Honestly, I wish I had more thoughts because, I mean, again, I have nothing to say about the lyrics. There is a language barrier.
Just a little bit.
Vocals are very fitting of the music, and that's about all I can say about them. Kind of sexy. Everyone sounds like they're flirting with me on this album.
Okay, so that's actually fairly accurate from my understanding of what some of these songs are anyway, so it's totally fine.
Everyone on it sounds hot.
Well, so I'm going to throw this out there. Anivar is a single girl who, for the record, is only 23 years old, so don't be getting too creepy here.
I'm not.
But I'm not going to lie. I know, I'm just saying. Just throwing that out there. So, specifically, I'm sure you don't remember what track is what, but if you wouldn't mind putting on track 5 for a moment, Bez Tebya.
Okay.
It translates to Without You. And yeah, that's, I think, a great example of, like, there is something strangely sexy about this song, even though lyrically it's actually kind of sad. I don't know if it's just the language barrier and because there's something, like, you know, quote-unquote exotic, and I hate doing that because I realize it does kind of sound a little racist, but still.
Oh, even the dude sounds like he's flirting with me on track 2.
Well, yeah, I thank God he does.
Я духовный человек, я не верю в совпадения. Другой жизни в другой век, найду тебя я без сомнения. Руку держи, не отпускай, ты вечность моя. Всем расскажи, что я теперь принцесса твоя. Руку держи, мы улетаем в небо с тобой. Расправим крылья наши под луной.
For the record, that song, Ruku Dirsi, is called Hold Your Hand.
Ooh.
So again, yeah, we're getting into that realm of, have you ever seen the hand-holding subreddit where everything is marked as not safe for work and they act like it's the crudest, lewd stuff in the world, but it's just like anime girls holding hands?
That's cute.
That's the realm we're getting into here.
Okay. You said dance pop, and I could see maybe a couple of these songs are kind of dancey. A lot of it's very chill, though.
I mean, yeah, that's not like the greatest description that I've ever come up with, obviously. There's definitely that, like, everything's in 4/4 time, and it always has, like, that same drum beat, that same, you know, bass drum on 1 and 2, or 1 and 3 kind of thing. But yeah, no, a lot of this is very chill, very relaxed, pretty mellow for the most part. There's a couple exceptions here.
Russian pop to relax/study to.
Okay, so you're not wrong. I actually got into Anivar in the first place while listening to a Russian radio at work, while I was doing one of my random tasks of just filing papers for hours on end. And the song Bez Tebya came on. And I'm just like, oh, this is really cool. I need to know what this is. So I open up, I don't remember if I was using SoundHound or Shazam, you know, insert song finding app on your phone here. And I pulled it up. I'm like, I need to know what this is. I found this girl. She only had like 4 songs on Spotify, but that's where I originally found this was while I was doing work. So yeah, basically this was, you know, Russian pop to do work.
I mean, yeah, that's actually pretty fitting. I mean, again, when we talk about in what situation do you listen to these albums, that's a good atmosphere to be listening to it in.
Yeah. No, mind you, don't get me wrong. This is actually also music that I like blast in the car driving home.
Okay.
Obviously, I would not have recommended it to you if I didn't genuinely love this album, which I do. And I gave it to you because I'm going to consistently give you music in words that you don't understand.
Okay.
Just because first off, I know that you're not opposed to that. I know you listen to music that's not in English. So this isn't, like, totally out of the realm for you.
Oh, yeah.
But I kind of want to, like, see if I can ever get anything to stick with you. Like, I want to see if, you know, I want to know if in a month you end up going back to any of these songs kind of thing. I'm not necessarily expecting it. This is just one of my, like, I'm going to throw this at you because I feel like it and I'm a jerk.
I don't know if I'll be going back to Anivar too much, but I did really enjoy it. It's an enjoyable album. It's very chill. I mean, again, maybe, you know, relax and study to at some point. I kind of wish I could listen to something while editing these fucking episodes, I'm not gonna lie, but I kind of have to listen to the content
but
I'm
you
making.
have to listen to the content? Yeah, exactly. Can I just point out one specific moment here in the first track, НОВЫЙ РАССВЕТ? I think this song has legitimately one of the catchiest choruses I have ever heard in my life. It starts around 47. I really just want you to go back and listen to this just for a moment.
I have actually listened, I'm gonna do that, but I have listened to this album a couple times, and I get really upset because the songs are catchy, but I don't know how to sing along. And I just kind of hum it to myself.
I could, if you want me to, I could get you the transliterations so you can read the words, but like an English character. You'll still have no idea what you're saying, but at least you can like say the words back.
Like just pronounce them out.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, give me 1 second. Let me put on Hoblin Pack Bet.
I was really hoping you would try and pronounce them the way they look in English. I've literally been waiting.
I really like Hoblin Pack Bet. I really like Adam Yan on Picky Apekin.
Because track 4, which in English just looks like it says Nido, is one of my favorites. And even though I realize, like, so it's Lieta, I think, which just means summer, I still, in my head, I call it Nido whenever I put this on.
I really like He Mourn.
Wait, which one?
I'm looking at 8.
Oh, the track 8. Oh my god, it does look like He Mourn. It's Nimochi, which means do not be silent, or something along those lines. Obviously, I can only do, like, direct translations, because I'm not that good at Russian.
Alright, give me 1 second. I'm listening to the chorus of Hoblin Pack Bet. I love it. I like the part where they're like, Snip and the wizard go.
Can we have a repeated thing where I just, like, make you listen to a song in another language and you tell me what it sounds like? Because I thank you so much. I needed this. Okay, but very legitimately, I mean, even as far as just, like, pop music goes, this is one of the catchiest choruses I think I've ever heard.
I'm dancing.
Like, I fell in love with this song immediately upon hearing this chorus. Okay, obviously, I don't really have a whole lot to say about this either. This is definitely just one of those, like, I'm throwing this out there as a challenge, knowing damn well that I'm the only person I know who listens to this. So this is just sort of, like, my calling to, like, throwing something weird at somebody. Obviously, I love this album. I don't understand all the words. I have read and done translations of all the lyrics, though. I love this album. You already said that you enjoyed this album, which, hey, that is better than I was worried about, I suppose.
Yeah, no, it's not the kind of thing I'm gonna go back to very often, but I did really enjoy listening to it, and it's the problem with a lot of these albums will be once I'm done listening to them, they kind of like just get pushed out of my mind.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
And
I mean, the whole point of this is, like, we're not going to love and remember every album. We're going to listen to a lot of albums, let's be honest here. We've already listened to quite a few new albums.
Oh, yeah.
I always forget some of the albums we've already talked about.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's only been 2 months.
Yeah. So that's going to be my biggest issue is, like, I might not ever think of this album again, but while I was listening to it, I enjoyed it.
That's fine, because you're going to be in my car someday, and you're going to hear this again and be like, oh, I remember this, and then you're going to sing along to, what was the Snip the Wizard line you just said?
Snip
Whatever
and the wizard go?
Yeah, that. You're going to So you'll recognize it again. It's fine.
Okay, cool.
Again, I don't have what to say. I think I was expecting this to be a pretty short review, so I'm totally fine with that.
Okay, cool. The next one we're going to be talking about is Ghost of Orion by My Dying Bride.
Oh, Ghost of Onions by My Dying Bride.
Ghost of Onions by My Dying Bride.
I touch the lonely face of your crime. The doom of your broken soul. It washes over me,
Did you like the spooky onions?
Do you want me to go first, or do you want to talk about this first?
I think that for the most part, you're going to be talking about this first. But sometime last year, I sent you a My Dying Bride song, and you were kind of into it. I don't know if you remember that.
Not at all. I actually wrote down, I'm wondering if I ever listened to them before.
Yeah, I sent you like 2 songs or a song or two, and you were kind of like digging it. One of them, you actually said, "I need more of this in my life."
I'm a pro so sweet.
So I thought,
Oh, that's funny.
Okay, I'll challenge him the new album, and I'll see how he likes it. But I hadn't listened to it yet, and I'm thinking maybe now that this wasn't the best place to start.
Oh, boy. Let me tell you something, Chris.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about My Dying Bride, the Ghost of Onions. So first off, like I said, I began my notes here saying, like, this is a name that, like, I recognize.
Right.
Obviously, this band is very important and very influential. I didn't look it up. I know they've been around for at least a couple decades. Like, this is not a new group.
They formed... Fun fact, they formed 4 days after my birthday.
Oh, wow. Okay, so they've been around for almost... Yeah, okay, they've been around for quite a while. Cool. So again, like, I recognize the name, but I'm thinking, like, I don't know if I've ever listened to them. And if I have, obviously I never listened to anything off of this album. The Ghost of Onions. So, as Shrek told us, onions have layers. This album does not. This album does absolutely nothing. It's honestly appalling. I'm amazed at genuinely how bad this album is. I'm pretty sure the band was drunk. The musicianship is boring at best, sloppy and incoherent more often than not. The vocals sound like they're trying to be, like, sincere and morose, but they just sound like he's wrapped up in a blanket ready for bed. The mix on the vocals were so low you couldn't hear him half the time anyway, which is probably better, except you're listening to drunk musicians behind them, so what difference does it make? Like, what the hell is this album?
Okay. So, this actually is going to need a little bit of explaining. Because I didn't hate this album as much as you do, but that's because I can hear the elements of what I expect from My Dying Bride in it.
Okay, and because I couldn't even remember who they were, even though apparently I've enjoyed some of their music before. Yeah, you might have to give me more of what I was enjoying, because this was not it.
Yeah, because the slow doom is a staple of their sound, as well as, like, the gloomy lyrics. Obviously, My Dying Bride, this isn't going to be a happy band. But the problem...
Here I was thinking they probably started as, like, a Mama and the Papas cover band.
Oh, really?
Like, no, not at all. Jesus Christ.
I know, I'm riding with the sarcasm. But this album was missing a big part of their influence that I think makes them so compelling, which is the death metal influence.
She comes close to her.
Okay.
Because
there were like the guttural vocals. But
well, there were the guttural vocals, and that's I think he is really good with the death growls, and I actually do like his clean vocals. I think he's done them better, but he is getting a little bit older. But none of that was really the problem. I'm with you. I think this album is very... It kind of slogs along after a little while. Because I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for it to kick into an intense gear, because what they're known for is kind of going back and forth between that slow doom and then kind of kicking it into like a slower death metal. I guess maybe if you're familiar with Bolt Thrower.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. And they kind of mix those elements. In fact, they were one of like the pioneers of that death doom genre. And even though they've been backing off of the death metal, it's still been something that they incorporate into their music to add a lot of diversity to their sound, rather than just how this album is just slow song after slow song after slow song. This one's very heavy on the doom. There's no aggression or bite to any of the songs, and they can make that work, but there's also nothing accessible. Like, they have a song called The Poorest Waltz, which is... I don't want to say catchy, but it's a little bit of an earworm to it. Or like Hail Odysseus, which has a lot of a story element going to it. They have a lot of songs where they're telling you a story in the song.
100 men on tameless seas, always searching for sacred land.
Even albums that they have that I can level similar criticism towards, like For Lies I Sire, are just more memorable than this album, more engaging. For me, when I listened to the first song, I thought they were really onto something with the opener. I like the gloomy atmosphere, the crunchy guitars. I like the string components. They have a live violinist in the band, so that's not like a synth or anything.
That's kind of cool, actually.
I do like Aaron Stainthorpe's voice on this kind of music, and I do like when it kicks in with the death growls, and I'm all in on that first track, except it does go on a little long. But as the album went on, I kept waiting for like that punch to the face that never came. You know what I mean? Usually there's at least a handful of punchy moments, and this album's like lyric writing and music writing just aren't as memorable. So I'm sitting there and taking it all in, and I'm trying to figure out, why is this album just not hitting me? And I found out that Aaron Stainthorpe wrote this album while his 5-year-old daughter was battling cancer.
Remember that time I made you listen to Pine Grove?
Yeah.
And you had a certain opinion of the album, and then I told you the story behind the...
Yeah.
Thank you for doing it right back to me.
Yeah, so to be clear, his daughter survived, so that's good.
I mean, that's great.
Yes.
And quite frankly,
and I'm sure...
That is awful, but that is also still not changing my opinion that this is the worst album we've listened to.
That's fine. And I'm sure that was just a draining, depressing experience for him, and Tired of Tears is directly about his daughter having cancer.
Gotcha.
And that's why it's like, lay no hand on my daughter.
Okay. Oh, wow. All right.
And he even considered leaving the band during that time, and when he went to record, he said he just wasn't able to get into it for a while, and it took a while. So it seems like this album has a good reason for being depressing and doomy, even by my Dying Bride standards, but I'm with you, this is not one of their more interesting albums.
I mean, uninteresting, I think, is this album's biggest crime. Mm-hmm. Like, this album isn't bad in the sense of, like, this isn't Lil Wayne, where I'm leaving it going like, I'm insulted that people like this. Obviously, this is for somebody.
Yeah.
The album is just so uninteresting. And like I said before, I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know these guys. I don't know if this was intentional, if this is just their sound. The musicianship is awful on this album. It seriously sounds like every guitar riff is like intentionally trying to falter. Like it has almost a swing to it, but it really just sounds like they're drunk.
I really just don't know if maybe the band wasn't like as there as some of their other stuff.
No one's into it. No one was into it in the studio.
Yeah. So I mean, again, that is something that they do, but I think they do it better on other albums. I think it makes more sense.
I fully believe you that at some point I did say I need more of this in my life.
Yeah.
Whatever that was, you're gonna need to send me more of this.
Okay.
And not like the title track of this album, the Ghost of Onions. The title track here reminds me of those like really annoying and awful atmospheric interludes that Tool does for some reason. Yeah, that's what this title track was, except the difference is on a Tool album, there's like a 45% chance that there's a good song after it, and there was no hope on this album.
Well, I did like your Broken Shore. I thought the opener was okay.
The opener was fine, aside from the fact that I couldn't get... I'm sorry, like, it sounds sloppy. And not in a, like, this is our first album not mixed well sloppy, although obviously I have a lot of problems with the mix, too. I cannot make any commentary on the lyrics because, shy of actually reading them, which I did, but I'm not going to reference it, I couldn't understand a damn word this guy says, even though he obviously is singing clearly half the time. He's so buried in the mix.
Yeah, I don't know why this was mixed so mediocrely, because this is their first album on a new label, so you would think it would be better.
Yeah, you would assume that.
I think it's even like Nuclear Blast, like it's like a known label.
Like a known label that should... I don't know. So the whole time... this is reminding me, because I mean, obviously, doom metal is not something I know a ton of. And thanks to seeing them live, a band that I do know is Ides of Gemini.
Okay.
Who I think do the very, like, morose style vocals really, really well. Where it's... don't get wrong, I cannot always understand the words from Ides of Gemini's songs, because they are a little buried. I think that is just part of the style. But she sounds sincere. This guy sounded tired. Or, I guess, in reality, this guy was genuinely just probably depressed while recording this album. And it shows.
Yeah.
But it's not showing in a good way.
Yeah.
It's showing in this is obviously inhibiting your creative power. This isn't Warren Zevon dying of cancer and writing one of the most unique albums of his career. This is just a guy half-assing it in the studio, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I really hope that their next one is a step up from this, because I'm not going to go back to it as much as A Map of All Our Failures or The Dreadful Hours. This one's just probably a little too subdued. Again, if we're talking about situations where I'm going to listen to this, it's like when I'm going to bed.
I could never listen to something this depressing going to bed. Depressing in every way possible. Like, depressing because it's just like, wow, this is really bad and somehow you guys are popular, but at the same time depressing because, like, now I can't get out of my head that it's about a 5-year-old girl with cancer.
Yeah. Well, and again, I'm not also trying to sell you something different, because a lot of their stuff has this kind of stuff as an element of their music, but I just think that this isn't one of the best ones. As a fan, there's like things I hear that I can like latch onto a little bit and say, okay, this sounds a little bit like some of your old stuff, but it just if I had heard this album, I would not have consciously started you here.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's just like an off the podcast topic. You're gonna have to send me things that you actually would recommend, because this is also... So I almost always listen to these albums 3 or 4 times before we hop on here.
Yeah.
I could not finish this album a second time.
That's fair.
I couldn't do it.
All right.
Which is now making me curious to whenever you send me the edited file of us talking about it. I'm curious what sound samples you are possibly going to pick out of this, because if I had to pick sound samples, you would have to put a gun to my head, and I'd probably throw darts at a board and just say, "Yeah, start at 115 on track."
I mean, honestly, I'm probably going to pick from the two songs that I at least almost enjoyed, which is Your Broken Sword and Tired of Tears.
At least almost enjoyed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to compare the Ghost of Orion and those stupid Tool interludes and see which one it sounds most like. Because it was definitely reminding me of one of them, but I'm not sure what, because as a general rule, I skip those stupid little interludes.
I mean, I'm sorry, Aaron Stainthorpe. I fucking love most of your albums. This one's not for me.
Hey, no one's perfect.
Yeah.
I just, okay, so I really could not stop thinking about Tool while listening to this album, not stylistically in any real way.
Just because their last album was really fucking boring, too?
Yeah, because their last album was, like, the biggest musical disappointment of my life.
That's the other thing, is this album got, like, some pretty good reviews, and I was also kind of thinking, like, you know what, though? Tool also got some really good reviews, and I also thought that was boring.
Tool got some really good reviews, and there were people saying it was the album of the year, and I want to jump inside their head for a minute, because I want to know what the hell they were listening to.
Yeah.
Because it was not, I already forget the name of that album. Fear Inoculum.
Yeah, that one.
We were obviously not listening to the same album, as far as I know.
Yeah.
I don't typically like heavy metal songs named something about chocolate chip cookies, and a song called Tempest spelled with a 7 is just not my thing, even though it was the best track on that album.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Tool Review podcast, where every week we review the same album by Tool that we didn't like, even though it came out last August or whatever.
Oh, God.
Fuck Tool.
Man, you're not wrong. So anyways, I hope Aaron Stainthorpe bucks up to his normal amount of depression and gets back to it on the next one.
I hope he gets back to, like, his, like, amount of depression that's, like, artistic and not because his daughter's really sick. Because
yeah.
I have no clue who this man is, and I don't like thinking about that anymore, honestly.
All right.
I just remember, real quick.
Well, I remember a couple years ago, I was going to go see My Dying Bride at Maryland Death Fest, and they canceled, and they didn't really say why, except that there was some sort of problem in the family. And I never found out what it was until I was looking up information on why this album was so I'm trying to use my nice words. Subdued.
Yeah.
We'll say subdued. That's a good one. That's not boring.
You know what this reminds me of?
What's that?
This is music. This is like a small tangent here. We had a coworker years ago when one day we were all talking about just like miserable jobs that people have.
Yeah.
And an old coworker of ours, his sister is a pediatric oncologist.
Uh-huh.
And I remember even then saying that is the most depressing thing I've ever heard in my life. And those are two words I never want put back in the same sentence.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that memory back. I'm sad now all of a sudden.
I know. It's. I
was having a good week overall with these albums, except for this one, Chris. Thanks for ruining it.
You're very welcome. Yeah, so I think we'll just move on to the next one before we start crying. But
that is perfect for me. I forget what the next one is.
Alright, so the next one is Rory Gallagher. It's a live album. What is it?
It's called Tech Shirt Wizard, live in 77.
Okay, that's right.
It has one of the weirdest names, and I honestly kept forgetting it. If I didn't have it written in front of me right now, I would just keep calling it Live in 77, which is what I've been calling it to myself.
I was on the way to work with your brother, and he looks at it, and he goes, what the hell does Check Shirt Wizard mean? And I'm like, I have no idea if this is, like, one of those references to a song or something that, like, I'm not gonna get.
I'm going to be honest, I actually also don't know.
Okay.
And I'm a Rory Gallagher fan, so I'm feeling really bad thinking, like, is this something I should understand? Because I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I could not, like, really do... He sings clear enough that the lyrics were pretty apparent, but I could not do lyrics. It being a live album, I'd have to, like, search for every song, and that just wasn't how I was listening to this at the moment.
That's fine. Okay, understandable.
Because 2 hours of blues is a lot of blues.
Oh, jeez, I didn't even realize it's 2 hours long. Oh, God, I'm so sorry. I didn't even realize I did that to you.
No, it's okay. It's okay. But I'm just, like, 2 hours of blues and, like, looking up the lyrics to every song is a lot of music.
That's tough. But it's totally fine because, I mean, also in typical blues fashion, a lot of these aren't originals. So, like, you really can't judge the lyrics for some of these because they're blues songs, you know?
Yeah.
Some of these, like, a lot of these were covers, obviously. Some of them were written in, like, the 1920s. So judging the lyrics on this album wouldn't necessarily be fair the whole time.
Well, and he sings pretty clear where there wasn't a lot of... What did he say?
But he definitely has that accent.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It shines sometimes.
Uh-huh.
He is very Irish.
Oh, yeah. The other thing with the blues is, like, what he's playing is way more important than what he's saying.
Oh, absolutely.
And
this is definitely a genre, and most of his songs, I think, like, if you get the general gist of the song, that's everything you're gonna need out of it.
Yeah, and I mean, I can tell this is one of those things where, I mean, my guitar playing is rudimentary, but so I can't speak on how technical what he's playing is, but it all sounds really good. It all sounds very quintessential blues. He even has one of those quintessential blues voices where it's got, like, that rough edge to it, but it's not exactly going to George Thorogood or Tom Waits area.
Yeah, like, he sings like he knows how to sing, but then he also just did a few shots of whiskey.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I honestly kind of expected a little bit more Irish influence on the music. There's actually probably more United States country sounding stuff near the end of the album. Maybe a little bit on Going to My Hometown, but that also sounds a little bit like In the Summertime by Mungo Jerry, so I'm not giving it any credit.
Let me tell you where I'm going to. Yeah. Yes, I'm coming to my hometown.
Oh no, you just ruined that for me.
How would that ruin it and not make it better? In the Summertime by Mungo Jerry is a great song.
Because thinking of Mungo Jerry is never a good thing. Those sideburns just give me nightmares.
Oh god, who doesn't love a good Mungo Jerry?
That song I'm just so bothered by that song. I'm sorry, I can't get over the whole, like, if her daddy's rich, take her out for a meal. If her daddy's poor, then do what you feel. Like, I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but I don't like it, and I hope they never sing it again.
You know what my problem with that album is or that song is have a drink, have a drive, go out and see what you can find.
I don't know how I feel that that does not bother me nearly as much. I don't know if I'm on the right side of the moral fence here.
I think that whole song is kind of morally questionable.
You know what? You're not wrong. This is yet another reason why we are now done talking about Mungo Jerry.
Welcome back to the Mungo Jerry podcast.
Welcome back to... I was just gonna say that. I only know one song. I can't even review anything else. I know one song, and I know the guy's sideburns.
You ready to talk about shows that aren't us? Todd in the Shadows had, like, an episode on Mungo Jerry, and apparently that dude has had, like, random hits in every other country, but they're never the same song. Like,
Seriously?
Like the United States is one of very few countries where he only had one hit, and it's also, like, one of very few countries where In the Summertime didn't go to number one. And he has, like, another hit in many, many countries, but none of them are the same song.
That's amazing.
Oh,
that's so weird.
Yeah.
Okay. So real quick, back to what we're actually talking about here. Rory Gallagher, the album that I am only going to refer to as Live in 77. obviously you know this, and I think I've even mentioned it before. I am a live album fan.
Yes.
So many times, my favorite album of an artist is a live album. And Rory Gallagher, I think, is one of those artists that I think the live albums are really like... If you're going to listen to Rory Gallagher and you're not listening to a live album, I don't know what you're doing.
Doing it wrong.
He already has a few others. Like, this is not his first live album to be released. This is just the newest one to be released. But, like, if I were to actually recommend an album by Rory Gallagher, I'd say, like, either Live in Europe, the Irish Tour 77, or I think the other one was called Stage Struck. Either way, they're live albums.
Okay.
There's a couple things about live albums that frustrate me, though, especially also being a blues fan. This kind of always happens. Rory Gallagher is obviously a blues and blues rock style player. Like you said, he's not really, the Irish influence isn't there. This is straight up blues.
Yeah.
He just happens to be from Ireland. I mean, the same way Eric Clapton was singing, American blues, even though he's obviously from England.
Yeah.
One thing that I usually hate on live blues rock albums is the random acoustic set they tend to do in the second half. And it's in almost any live blues album that I have. There's always 4 to 6 songs of acoustic, and I never like them as much. Rory Gallagher is my exception to that.
I was gonna say the acoustic set on this one was pretty good.
Incredible.
Yeah.
But and again, it's really cool because he's he kind of goes super old school with some of these acoustic songs. He's going back, he's playing in a 1920s, 30s Delta blues style. Again, we have an Irishman playing very, very American music, but it's incredibly cool.
They love that. I'm just gonna assume that all Irish people love Americana because that was a big thing with Phil Lynott too. Phil Lynott.
Oh really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's actually really funny. But then again, I also always forget that he's Irish. I'm sorry.
It's okay. But he had Cowboy Song. He had that one song where he kind of tried to do he has that one song where he does a Bob Seger impression.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You may have made me listen to this at some point. I don't know.
That's fine.
I apologize. No matter how hard I try, I just never get into Thin Lizzy.
I mean, you're kind of wrong, but that's okay.
I'm well aware, and it's fine. You also hate Aerosmith. It's fine. Anyway, so there's this I think it's 5-song acoustic set in the second half of this album, which I know this doesn't mean anything to you, but I think it's really cool because the one song they did, Too Much Alcohol.
Okay.
I'm almost positive I've heard them do a full band version of that. So hearing him do such a stripped down version was just oh, I never knew you did this. I didn't know this was a thing.
Is that an original or a folk song?
That's an older song from the 20s or 30s, I think.
I was gonna say I always love when
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head who wrote it. I would have to look that up.
Okay.
I could tell you that Out on the Western Plain,
yeah,
is by Leadbelly, the same guy who did the song Where Did You Sleep Last Night?
Oh, I know Leadbelly.
Yeah, you do know Leadbelly because everybody knows Leadbelly because in the 90s it was super cool to play songs by old blues musicians, which I'm pretty sure I referenced that last episode, actually.
I love
that
Blind
I really
Melon
hated that trope from the 90s.
I love Blind Lemon Jefferson.
Hey, you know what? First off, I love Blind Melon. Second off, I will give them credit because I think that's actually how I even found Blind Lemon Jefferson was through their ridiculous...
I'm pretty sure I heard a Blind Lemon Jefferson song somewhere. I don't remember. And I listened to a best of for 20 minutes, and I was like, "This sure is the blues."
It sure is very old school. Oh, I love Blind Lemon Jefferson, man. You are... I don't understand. Anyway,
I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying I didn't in that moment want to listen to more than 20 minutes of it.
I get it. It's totally fine. So a couple things. I mean, you obviously mentioned Rory Gallagher's guitar playing, which is mostly what he's known for. I mean, he's obviously a phenomenal guitar player. And also remember the era. We're only talking 1977 here, so this isn't guitar shredders weren't really a thing.
Yeah.
I think of Rory Gallagher's playing, obviously he's very good, but he's just on the cusp of kind of crazy, wild, and maybe a little sloppy, but it's all kind of has a swing to it.
I think of him a lot more of like when Jimmy Page is playing blues,
Yeah.
as opposed to like Jeff Beck or Eric Clapton, who they're playing is like much more like subtle, much more deliberate. Rory Gallagher is just wild. He is just kind of all over the place, but it always is correct. It's always right, and it's so, so cool. Obviously, he's a huge influence on a lot of modern rock players, which amazes me that he's not as well known of a name. Like, I don't think you knew who Rory Gallagher was before this, did you?
No.
Whereas, like, I guarantee if you were to dig through a lot of bands you've listened to, he's an influence in there somewhere. But for some reason, he doesn't get the spotlight. Not a real know.
Well, he died kind of young, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Because
I don't remember how old he was.
That's always a factor, I guess.
It is, but then, like, there are times that someone dies young, and then we, continue to talk about them for decades for some reason.
Yeah, Jeff Buckley.
Okay, but we should still be talking about Jeff Buckley.
I never said we shouldn't be. I just said, yeah, Jeff Buckley. He died at 47.
Fact,
that's actually older than I thought originally.
Yeah, I was saying Rory Gallagher wasn't, like, 20.
I thought he died mid-30s when I originally read it, but that is not correct.
But he did die young.
Bad info,
like,
Chris.
Bad. You're not supposed to die at 47.
No.
Can I say another weird thing that I hate about live albums, though? Because it just kind of, like, throws me off. And I realize in this case there's nothing they could have done. In the song Bullfrog Blues, it's near the end of the album, they do this thing, which in a live setting, when I'm at a concert and the front man of a band does this, I am like psyched and I love it. And it's the coolest thing ever. And that's when they introduce the members of the band. The problem is, when it's in the middle of a song on a live album, I don't want to listen to that every time.
I can agree with that.
It's like there's a recording of Do You Feel Like We Do?
Yeah.
By Peter Frampton, where like he takes an extended guitar solo and then it just kind of cuts down to like just like bass and drums, and he takes 2 minutes to introduce the band and then cuts into like the most amazing guitar solo on the album.
Is this one of those situations where it's like, and Jim on drums and Jim has to have a 30-second solo, and Mitch on bass and Mitch has to have a 30-second solo?
It's not that bad, but I know exactly what you mean, and that's really frustrating. Even though, again, in a live setting, I love that kind of thing.
I was going to say, I would rather listen to that, though. Like, if everyone's going to at least have, like, a moment after, it's much more interesting than at least, like, and over here, and over here, and over here we have...
Yeah, it just, But, okay, so where I'm going with this is just one of those weird things that, like, obviously, in 1977, they weren't thinking about how this was going to sound on an album, that it's going to annoy some guy who wouldn't be born for 12 years still in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Some guy who, to be fair, is also very petty.
Yeah, exactly. And no one cares. But it's still just one of those things that just, it bothers me. As much as I love the song Bullfrog Blues, and I think it's an amazing recording, it's a really great recording of it, there's that, like, minute and a half or whatever of introducing the bands where I'm going to be able to recite exactly how he introduces everybody, and I don't really necessarily want to do that. But I'm going to be able to probably soon, because I'm going to keep listening to it regardless. But all I keep thinking about is the artist Johnny Lang has an album, Live at the Ryman Theater, where his one big song is called Red Light. It's like this slow ballad. It begins with the band intro. It's a separate track on the CD.
Ooh, what a good idea.
If you wanted to, you could actually skip the band intros and just go to the song. Because let's face it, there's two kinds of people. There's the people who do not care about the band. Admit it, we all know it's true. There's a lot of those people.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's people like me who can already recite the way Johnny Lang introduces the rest of the band. I don't need to listen to him do it before. I know who his band is. That's kind of the case here. Like, I know these people. I know who this band is. I don't need to hear the introduction. Even though, again, I realize if I were at this concert, I would have been, like, super psyched for introducing everybody.
Well, who doesn't love a good live introduction?
But, like, I don't know why I spent way too much time thinking about this. Like, how much I'm just thinking, I wonder if Johnny Lang actually thought about that. Like, we're going to introduce the band at the beginning of the song. That way it can be a separate track on the album.
Yeah.
I have no idea if that actually was, like, a conscious thought or not. I don't know if some producer said, like, hey, you know what you should do? Or if it's just coincidence. But nobody told Rory Gallagher to do that in 1977. So near the end of one of the best songs on the album, there's a break in the music. And it's very frustrating. What is not frustrating is the song Walk on Hot Coals, which is track 9. If you don't remember this one specifically, I recommend at some point giving it another listen. If you ask me, this is, I think, the best vocal performance I've ever heard from Rory Gallagher.
The unfortunate thing about this is I did listen to it like 2.5 times. But it being 2 hours, it was a lot to take in. So
exactly,
specific moments are really hard for me to remember at the moment.
And just one of the ones. It's one of the ones like I'm thinking at some point I want you to go back and listen to that song, and you might be like, "Oh yeah, I remember this one now."
Yeah.
But just like it's just an incredible performance on his part.
This was a fun album. This is probably something I'll put on every once in a while.
I was say I can imagine this would the kind of thing that you might at some point pick a handful of songs, throw them on a playlist or something. Because, I mean, as you said, like, yeah, it is blues. And it is 2 hours of blues. Unless you are a blues fan in general, that's a lot of blues.
That's a lot of blues.
A lot of blues to dive right into. I apologize. I even listened to this album multiple times before telling you to listen to it. And it didn't occur to me that this is actually a double album.
It's actually fine. Like, because blues for me is excellent background noise. It's the kind of thing that I can fade in and out, and I can be like, ooh, this is really cool, and then I can just kind of like go back to what I'm doing. So I was listening to this, and I was playing Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2.
You know what? That's great, because this is the perfect kind of album that I listen to while, like, this is one of my I'm going to sit back and play Minecraft albums.
Yeah.
And I'm, like, mostly focused on the album, but, like, I can kind of zone out a little bit.
Exactly. And that's it.
And again, this is not a criticism of the genre of, like, this style of blues and blues rock, but, like, it does bleed together very well.
Yeah.
There's not aside from, like, the acoustic set, and, like, obviously their songs are in different tempos and whatever, but we're not talking a whole lot of stylistic variety here. It's straight up blues. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. It's not pretending to be anything else, ever. Obviously there's a lot of, like, country influence, which is coming from the much older style blues, but still.
Especially once it gets into the acoustic set.
Now when me and a bunch of cowboys rode into Jesse James, when me and a bunch of cowboys rode into Jesse James, the bullets were flying just like a shower rain. Come a cock, jiggy, come a cock, jiggy, jiggy, jay. Come a cock, jiggy, come a cock, jiggy, jiggy, jay. Look out, Jesse.
Oh, like I said, the acoustic set is very, very heavily influenced by, like, Delta blues musicians. So, like, or going back to our buddy Blind Lemon Jefferson here.
Blues names are really just one of those things where you can, like, pick a disease and a fruit in your last name.
I mean, I remember seeing one of those things on Facebook that was, based on, like, the day you were born and what month you were born or whatever. And I just loved the fact that I forget what the rest of my name was, but it gave me the last name of Jefferson, which just works perfectly considering that my name is Jeff.
I'm just going to call you Mute Mango Jefferson.
Mute Mango Jefferson, I'll take it.
All right. Anyway, go ahead. Go back to whatever thought you had that wasn't stupid.
I have no clue what my thought was, but now I'm too busy thinking about Mute Mango Jefferson. Okay, I'm assuming there's nothing here that actually specifically stood out to you then. Because you kind of said that it kind of does bleed all together.
It does bleed all together. Like, I mean, obviously, "Do You Read Me" stood out being in the opening track. Moonchild stuck out being not the Iron Maiden song.
It certainly is not the Iron Maiden song.
No, it's really not. Which is funny because apparently he has another song called Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. Moonchild is the opener to Seventh Son of a Seventh Son by Iron Maiden.
Oh my god.
So I was like,
why is that a thing?
I don't know, but
that's actually really funny.
I don't know, but now I want some sort of crossover to happen. I want Iron Maiden covering Rory Gallagher.
I wonder if there's one of those like really poorly done mashups on YouTube.
That one I doubt. I think that's a little obscure for anyone, and I'm the guy who took Pokemon and the rapper Onyx and matched
Hey,
them
there's
up.
nothing wrong with Onyx Used Slam. That's a great video.
But yeah, the only thing that really sticks out aside from that is the acoustic set, which was very well done.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, okay, so who really frustrates me is, do you know Joe Bonamassa by any chance?
I know the name. I'm not too familiar with the specifics.
Joe Bonamassa is a blues rock player who plays the same way I do. If you can put too many notes into a space, he's going to do it.
Okay.
He is absolutely like the shredder of blues rock, kind of taking over from Gary Moore, but many people would argue he is not as good as Gary Moore. Matter of opinion, I'm not really going to state one, it doesn't matter. But Joe Bonamassa, obviously, like I said, he's like a blues rock player. The man shines best when he is behind a heavily overdriven Les Paul. And yet he does these acoustic sets that just like completely kill the feel of an album for me.
Okay.
So Rory Gallagher doing an acoustic set. I mean, mind you, I knew going in that the man does phenomenal acoustic sets, but I'm just like, this is my exception here. Rory Gallagher is my exception to the rule of I don't want blues rock players doing acoustic sets, because I think he does it phenomenally well.
He did do very well on that. That's kind of all I got on this one.
That's totally fine. That's totally fine.
But I would give this a solid 6.
Cool. I'll take it.
Except for one problem.
What's that?
White people playing the blues in general is a 2.
I'm gonna wholly disagree with that.
I'm just being
I'm not to say that there's anyone who has done it specifically better than anyone else, but obviously there are a lot of white blues musicians who I absolutely love. That's why I really like the phrase blue-eyed soul, referring to when white people do like blues music. And I realize, again, I guess that's kind of meant to be a little racist, but I'm not going to lie. That is a badge I would wear with honor. I actually love the sound of that.
It's like white rap. We let one pass every once in a while.
Oh, that's awful, isn't it?
Yeah. It's white people don't belong in the blues, and they don't belong in rap.
Except for the fact the white blues musicians are the ones that got rich and famous. You know, like back when Eric Clapton was playing with Cream, they would do a cover of a song by Albert King.
Yeah.
They would do Born Under a Bad Sign. And it's really weird. I think in an interview with Joe Bonamassa, he was kind of making fun of the fact that, you know, you could go see Cream do this song in front of thousands of people in stadiums, or you could go see Albert King, the guy who wrote the song, perform the same song in like small clubs in Austin or Dallas, Texas. It's actually super weird that a genre that is absolutely created by black men was at least financially dominated by British white men.
And not the least bit racist. Anyway.
No, it absolutely is. But you want to know what else is a shame, Chris?
What's that?
The fact that we haven't talked about Poppy yet.
Let's talk about the album of the year.
We need to talk about Poppy.
This is the best. This is the best of both worlds, Jeff. You got your pop and my metal.
So first off, I'm assuming that we're gonna have us talking about Poppy from like a month or two ago.
Okay, so a couple months ago, I introduced Jeff to Poppy, and that was recorded, but I've been holding on to it for us to talk about the album I Disagree. So what you're going to be hearing for the next couple, it's actually going to be about 20 minutes to a half an hour, I don't know yet. What you're going to be hearing for the next little while is going to be the conversation that we previously had where I discussed Poppy with Jeff. So we're going to flash back to that for a moment. Alright, so you've never heard of Poppy?
Not that I know of. I mean, when I said I found an album called like I Disagree, like am I looking at the right thing?
Yeah, that's the new Poppy album.
Okay, as far as I'm aware, I'm not familiar with who this is.
So Poppy is like this artistic musical project that started in like 2015, and it started as like a weird viral YouTube campaign. It was kind of like an ARG, but it was pretty upfront with like what it was conceptually. It was like a parody of like a pop star, right?
Okay.
It's not like an SNL skit of it. It's kind of David Lynchian. There's like this whole, is she controlled by the Illuminati? Is she there against her will? Is she controlled by her record label? She uses the phrase "my handler" a couple times.
This is sounding weird.
Yeah, and it's like a parody of like celebrity culture and pop culture, consumer culture, and there's like some stuff about internet culture in there. The weird thing is though that she backs it up with actually decent pop music.
Oh, here I'm thinking like this cover looks like it's one of those like black metal artists who's obviously being a parody of themselves, basically.
Well, we're gonna get to that.
I haven't listened to anything, so like that. I'm assuming this is a black metal album, like as a joke or something.
We're gonna get to all of that, but so first I want to kind of give you a crash course because she started off just completely unrelated. She was just doing like the YouTube covers, like it was a very typical. She was like 20 at the time, just doing YouTube covers of like other popular songs or other known songs. And I guess she was just found by someone else who previously had done a similar project, and they started the Poppy as a project, but I think she was already going by that as like a name for her YouTube cover project.
Okay.
But she did these very weird like YouTube videos. They went kind of viral for a little bit. I'm gonna send you a few of those so you can get an idea, because I want of what she did, because the videos even came like a couple months before the songs. I'm assuming they were recording the songs when they were doing the videos.
Weird. Okay.
So I want you to see what the internet was treated to before we even heard a Poppy song. So this first one is like an interview video.
Is everything okay?
Absolutely. I'm happy and my life is wonderful.
Poppy, I asked you a question.
I love my fans, my record label, and my handler.
Are you okay? You aren't making any sense.
I just want to take a minute to thank God
I love
for
my
this
fans,
opportunity.
my record label, my handler, and God.
Yep.
Poppy is more of a robot than that Terra mannequin robot that's saying that I feel fantastic.
Okay, so I'm gonna send you one more. I look at this one as kind of like a parody of when celebrities preach things. I think in this case it's kind of like a play on like supporting PETA. And again, the whole thing is kind of like David Lynch, so that's kind of like my interpretation.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you one more, and then we'll get into the musical aspect of Poppy.
I'm ready.
So again, if anyone is listening to this, I'm recommending the videos Charlotte Interviews Poppy, and then this next one is called A Plant.
You know, plants and humans aren't that different.
I guess that's true. I just wish you would stop killing and eating us. You know, it hurts when we die. You just can't hear us scream.
It feels good to be alive, don't you think?
It truly does. Thank you for not killing me, Poppy.
What do you think? Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump?
That's a good question. I suppose I'll vote for whichever candidate is gay.
I think they're both gay.
Is it wrong that I love her?
Jeff, I'm a huge Poppy fan.
I don't even know what to say to this. I mean, this video, first off, so she's interviewing a plant. Cool. I'm on board. She then asks the plant who it's going to vote for in the 2016 presidential election, and they both decide that they will vote for whichever one is gay. Like, what is this?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think you can see where some of the social commentary is coming from with that.
Do you still think Donald Trump is gay?
I think everyone's gay.
What led you to that conclusion?
I feel like gay is a spectrum.
Okay. What are you?
Poppy.
But is Poppy low gay?
Everyone's gay.
Is Poppy a girl?
I mean, yeah.
But, I mean, I actually kind of think this whole thing is kind of genius. So what kind of quality pop music do you think you're going to get out of this?
I don't know. And unfortunately, because this last video, the plant saying something about like it hurts us when it hurts when you kill us, you just can't hear us scream. All I can think of right now is the song "Carrot Juice Constitutes Murder." I think it's just called "Carrot Juice's Murder."
Now I'm gonna send you the first Poppy song I'm gonna show you. This is called "Low Life," and all of her stuff is like on Spotify just as music, and you could just kind of listen to it as pop music, I think. But the visuals are part of the project, and you're going to see a lot of references to the Illuminati, to being controlled by her record company.
Her record label, her handler, I guess.
And also some satanic references that are very blatant.
Baby, you're the highlight of my low life. Ay. Take a shitty day and make it alright. Yeah, alright. Oh, in every circumstance, yeah, you make the difference. Baby, you're the highlight of my low life.
What is this?
What do you mean?
I don't get it. I mean, okay, so the song itself is catchy. I don't think it's anything special. I could definitely see this like being a single though. Like this absolutely could have gotten radio play. Okay, if this were just like insert generic pop star here and it was a song, I would think nothing of it because the video is weird but not like over the top weird. If I hadn't seen the planned interview and then that first video you sent, I would just think this was a mediocre kind of reggae pop song by a blonde girl with a stupid video.
Yeah.
But because there's so much more to it, I'm not sure I really get what it is.
That's
Although
fine.
part of me is also thinking that's the point.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there isn't like an official, this is our goal. I'm assuming this is just kind of a weird like performance art thing.
Yeah, it's not overt. It's a lot of the songs have like these weird. There are songs with like weird subtle nods to kind of the concept. I wouldn't say it's so much a story, as it is like just the concept of like this pop star who's being controlled by her record label. But there's allusions in some of the songs to am I supposed to be telling you what to think? That kind of thing.
Okay. All right.
So, like I said, the first album that she put out, the first EP and the first album are kind of along that pretty straightforward pop vibe, but with some kind of goofy lyrics that you might not notice, but I think there's kind of a big visual aspect.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm seeing a theme here. Again, if I saw this video with no context, I wouldn't think anything of it, but because there's a very obvious theme here, I'm sure I probably would love to watch this video a few more times and see what else I pick up.
And I think
near the end, she's wearing a dress with a bunch of eyes on it.
And I
wouldn't have thought anything of it if I didn't already catch like all the weird Illuminati references they keep making.
Yeah, I mean, and she starts the video in like the she's sitting like the Baphomet and that kind of thing, in front of a thing that kind of looks like the Illuminati.
Oh, see, I didn't even catch that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So there's that whole thing. And then I think when she gets in the car and like breathes something in that's supposed to be, you know, an allusion to, you know, pop stars and drug addiction.
Oh, okay, yes. I mean, like I said, I would love to watch this video a few more times. It's strange. I would probably think it's incredibly stupid again without context.
And I think that's kind of, I think the point is kind of, if you're just showing up and just seeing the song, there's not like a story that you're missing out on. But if you were dragged in by the ARG, then there's kind of hints to that going on.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Can I just read this one comment here?
Yeah.
Real quick. This top comment on this video by Wannabe.
Mm-hmm.
Poppy is not a part of the Illuminati. Poppy is a completely normal person. Nothing is wrong with Poppy. Poppy is happy. Poppy is glad. Poppy is not a part of the Illuminati. Say it with me. Poppy is not a part of the Illuminati. Poppy is not a part of the Illuminati. Poppy is not a part of the Illuminati. Poppy is a completely normal girl.
And that's kind of the format of some of the videos, because she does have a video called I Am Not in a Cult.
Oh, good, does she?
Yeah.
I'm glad.
So that's kind of the vibe of the first album. On the second album, she kind of adopts this Gary Newman vibe.
Oh, okay.
In fact, there's a cover that she did of Metal by Gary Newman from like around the same time, but it's not on the album.
Of course there is.
And who are you? And how could I try? Here inside I like metal, don't you?
And there's kind of like this, is she like a cyborg, I guess, storyline. I think it's kind of like how David Bowie kept like recreating himself like the Thin White Duke in Ziggy Stardust.
The difference is that I actually am like moderately interested in this.
I understand that, but I think also if David Bowie had the ability to do an internet ARG in the 70s, he would have.
If David Bowie had the internet, he probably would be talking to underage girls in chat room.
That's also fair. Anyway.
Hi, everybody. I really hate David Bowie.
He does. Anyway, this is a song from the second album, and it's called Time Is Up.
Good, I'm ready.
But don't look so depressed. You'll soon be nothingness. Oh my God, you don't even know. I don't need air to breathe when you kill the bees, and every riverbed is dry as a bone. Oh, I'll still survive when the plants have died and the atmosphere is just a big hole.
Okay, this is really intense.
How do
For being like a really fun, catchy pop song, this is intense.
How you feeling about it?
I was not prepared for the line, I don't need air to breathe when you kill the bees. Holy shit.
Are you digging Poppy?
I'm loving Poppy.
Yes.
Like, I never knew I needed this in my life.
Well, I mean, and you think about it, it's like generic pop, which is... I think you do have an affinity
Which is
for
fully
it.
up my alley. I definitely have a weird affinity for just, like, super generic.
And then it has, like, a David Lynch, like, storyline going on, and that's something that you are also kind of into.
Yeah, there's, like, a weird, like, nondescript creepiness to it.
Uh-huh. Which is also, like, I got into it because I remember when they were putting up the videos as the ARG, and then I, like, listened to the pop, and I'm like, this isn't bad. Like, she can back up the pop star aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like, I mean, this is another song. This is now the second song that I'm thinking, like, no context. Given this song to someone else, it's totally fine. This could have been on the radio. Now, this one, lyrically, I think is a little more heavy and a little more upfront about the fact that it's not just a normal pop song. But, like, otherwise, like, this absolutely is this could have been by anybody.
Yeah.
This is just one of those, like, in context, it's so much more.
Uh-huh.
Out of context, it's just like, what is this?
Yeah, I mean, the video is very... it helps to know what the fuck's going on, which is why I said I want to talk to you about the new Poppy, but I want to have a conversation about what Poppy is first.
I totally get that. So now I'm gonna have to do some more research and then listen to the new Poppy album because it would not have made any sense without.
I'm gonna send you one song and then I want to talk about the rest of it at a later time.
That's perfect.
But I guess her new album has kind of a theme of, and the last one I think you can see some of it too. But I'll say, to use a metaphor, maybe Frankenstein losing control of the monster, where Poppy's kind of in charge now.
Oh, good.
So, but on this album, it actually coincides with her actually firing one of the guys who helped make her image.
Like, remember that time that No Doubt released a music video where she killed the other band members and then she split off and made a solo career for...
Sorta. I'm gonna say that she was in the right because apparently he was being manipulative and, like, threatening suicide.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, like, he didn't seem like a good dude. But I guess she just leaned right the fuck in because her new album is this weird marriage of, like, heavy metal and pop.
Great.
And I'm gonna send you the title track, I Disagree.
Okay.
And you're gonna have to tell me if you agree or disagree.
Oh, okay, good.
With Poppy, I mean.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, what am I agreeing or disagreeing with? Okay, I'm gonna say I'm agreeing with her.
Excellent.
I agree with Poppy.
I'm
not sure what the question is, but the answer is yes.
Okay, so I mean there were a couple songs on it that I don't think worked quite as well, but I'm gonna advise you if there's a music video for the song to watch the video because, like I said, it's kind of part of the aspect. So that's why.
Yeah, I mean.
That's why I think we'll come back to it a little later after you've had some time because this was one of the albums that I was putting off because I knew there would be a visual aspect. So, like, because I took today off work, I had a chance to actually sit down and watch the music videos for this album.
Yeah, I'll say this is definitely, I mean, even though I think the songs are probably going to stand on their own, the songs are probably going to be entirely different on their own. The videos really mean a lot.
I think
because again, this is performance art. I mean, this is kind of going beyond just like pop music. This is just kind of a very strange performance.
Yeah, it just happens to be that pop music is kind of the soundtrack.
Yeah, pop music's the format that she's doing, but like that's not the point. The point is obviously not the pop music, or in this case, the I don't know what to call it. I guess it is kind of Gary Newman-esque.
Pop metal. We're back in the present.
I hate how you handle that so much, but I also love it so much. All right, so Poppy's newest album, I Disagree.
I disagree with the way you continue to pressure me.
So obviously we just inserted a conversation that we had previously, so I just want to remind everybody, Poppy is a completely normal girl. There is nothing crazy or weird about her. She is not being controlled by any external forces. She is a completely normal girl. And by that I mean that's what this album is entirely about, is
how normal Poppy is.
It's not about how normal Poppy is. It is about the fact that it is so much about an obvious dispute between her and...
Yeah, I think that we need to...
Now,
I think that...
Now we're gonna kind of... The problem is...
We need to add to the Poppy lore that we just had.
Here's
because we kind of skimmed over the man with the awful name Titanic Sinclair when we talked about it the first time.
Oh, I thought we talked about that before. I guess
we did,
okay.
but we skimmed over it. It was it was like we brought it up, but we didn't. I didn't get into the dispute. Because so again, she produced the music, I think, for the most part by herself, and he made the viral video aspect of it. And then they got into a relationship. And during that time period, the girl that he worked with previously, known as Mars Argo, basically sued them, saying that she felt Poppy's image was too close to what she had made with Titanic Sinclair. I would personally say similar but different. I don't know if you looked into Mars Argo.
I did not, no.
It's a lot more indie, and I would say that the content that they made was maybe a little bit more confrontational, but let's just say this guy definitely has a style of enjoying making videos where girls are like kind of subservient to him, and it's kind of creepy in retrospect.
It's very creepy.
Because both of them have come out and said he's manipulative and abusive, and Poppy basically said he'd kill himself if she left him. So before this album, they both split romantically and professionally, and this album is kind of a response to that, as well as a response to Poppy saying that she felt screwed by her record deal on the first couple albums, and also just saying that she's into heavier music now than when she started out at like 18 or 19. She doesn't want to do straight pop music anymore.
This album is very obviously about that split. And what's interesting is the line between Poppy, the weird character, and Poppy, the girl who is performing it, is really blurred in a lot of this. So many of these songs, obviously it is about her, you know, as a professional, you know, breaking apart from this creative producer who was like controlling all of her work, and also this person who was controlling her as a person. So this guy who was basically abusing and manipulating both the character and the actual human being that is Poppy. And this whole album is fusing both storylines, the real life one and the fictional one. And it's almost creepy. And I love it. I love how intertwined she is with this character that was made for her in a lot of weird ways. And I think this album is, I'm assuming at least, going to be her step one in breaking that image. Like really leaving that.
Well, you look at the music videos, it really looks like she's really broken that image.
Like she's really separating herself from the craziness that was this character. But at the same time, it's almost like her breaking out of that character is now part of her character.
Right.
So, musically, are we going to talk about the actual songs in the album?
Yeah.
So as I'm listening to this album, obviously I had heard a couple of the singles first, but listening to this album, my first thought was I was comparing it to Marilyn Manson in a lot of weird ways. In just like, it's very, like it has that like kind of industrial heavy metal sound.
Well, I would say, Anything Like Me has that almost Beautiful People riff.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, that's actually one of the ones I specifically wrote
And
down.
Fill the Crown, people have been kind of like, is that Marilyn Manson as the backing vocalist? Because if it's not, they got a really good impersonator.
I was actually going to ask you because I didn't look. I was wondering if it was or not.
That's one of those things where they haven't said who it is. But from what I remember, people were saying that Poppy was seen hanging around Marilyn Manson around the time of the recording of this album. She was at like his birthday party or some weird shit. So it's not out of the realm of possibility.
But after I dropped the Marilyn Manson connection, I actually kept thinking this reminds me of Baby Metal. In that, lyrically, definitely not. But vocally, some of it's kind of cute. The difference is, it's not like Baby Metal where the cute is like full-on kawaii mode. In this, it's cute in that same way that horror films like to take children's songs but slightly distort the sound so it's suddenly creepy. So this reminds me of Baby Metal, except it's cute in that way. It's cute in a kind of creepy way.
It reminded me of, like, Baby Metal meets when, like, Devin Townsend fuses the pop with metal.
Yes. I mean, well, so obviously this album, for the most part, is just a fusion of pop and metal, which, can I just say, is I'm really glad that's a thing.
Yeah.
And I don't mean pop metal the way, like, the 80s did it, where, like, goofy heavy metal is popular. I mean, like, this is straight up pop music, like, almost borderline bubblegum pop music.
Well, I mean, Concrete goes back and forth between, like, heavy as Gojira and then going into J-pop. That song is all over the place.
Yeah, and it's this bubblegum pop music wrapped in some pretty extreme metal sounds overall. It's a wild, wild album. Now, in all fairness, I do have to say that a lot of this album, out of context of who Poppy is and what this album is probably about, isn't super interesting. Lyrically, it's kind of vague and ambiguous. Like, this is definitely an album that I think you need the context to really enjoy.
That's why I wanted to give you that primer.
Yes, because at the same time, again, Poppy is not just a singer. This is performance art. Knowing context is literally everything. And I think if anyone judges this album or any of these songs just on the merit of the song, you're missing the whole point.
There's a few that I think it can work, like the title track, I Disagree.
Oh, I mean, yeah, like, I Disagree is obviously a single.
But if you put on Concrete, that song is all over the place, and it's going to be kind of off-putting for everyone. It's bipolar. It reminds me of what Devin Townsend was doing on the last album, Empath.
Empath. Yes.
And that, like, that whole album was all over the place. But this is the least consistent song on the album, but it makes a really strong statement about she's going to do whatever the fuck she wants. And sometimes it's, like, Gojira heavy, sometimes it's J-pop, and it's got, like, a weird transition part where the guitars sound like Queen. It's all over the place. But Bury Me 6 Feet Deep, Cover Me in Concrete, and Turn Me Into a Street is one of the best lines ever.
Ooh, say that again for me?
Bury me 6 feet deep, cover me in concrete, turn me into a street.
Oh, God. You know, I mean, like, I have that even written down, but just, like, that's so cool. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I didn't say the whole album is bad, but, like, I think a lot of this album doesn't really make a whole lot of sense without context.
I don't think any of this album is bad, but that's...
No,
but it all requires some level of context.
If you ask me, the weak track on here is Blood Money.
What do you believe when nobody is watching? What do you believe? Keep telling yourself that you've been playing nice and go beg for forgiveness from Jesus the Christ. Beg for forgiveness from Jesus the Christ. Beg for forgiveness from Jesus the Christ.
It really feels like full-on Marilyn Manson style to me.
Yeah, it gets a little bit like
fun.
Rappy, and there's like some new metal influence. I didn't think it was bad, but it's clearly she's calling out that Titanic Sinclair guy. Never forget the excess of a man, because the grabbing hands always grab what they can.
Thank you. I will say I wrote down the same lyric. I mean, it's not bad, but it is the weakest link on this album, I think. Another thing is, like, I'm not super into, like, grabbing very surface level religious symbolism. Like, I get it that it's kind of meant to be understood by everybody, but I just think it comes off as a little lazy. And then, honestly, I think my biggest problem with this song isn't the song's fault. It reminds me of the song Bad Girl by Avril Lavigne, which, as you know, I love Avril Lavigne. She's my girl. And I actually really like the song Bad Girl, which features Marilyn Manson. The problem is, anything that reminds me of Avril Lavigne probably means it's kind of generic and not actually very good. So it's not a good comparison to be listening to a song on this album and be thinking of Avril Lavigne.
Well, I'm gonna agree that this is the weak track, but I'm also stating that I don't think it's a bad song. Like it's a strong weak track.
I would say if this, if I'm calling this the weakest link, I would still trust this chain to tow my car. Just saying, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah,
this
is a no skip album for me.
Oh no, absolutely. There is not actually a bad track on here. I just think that's the weakest one. Man, I don't even know. I'm fascinated by the entire Poppy lore, I guess is what we're going to refer to it as. And I'm super excited to see where this goes.
Oh yeah, that is the biggest fear, is that I don't know what you follow this up with.
I mean, quite frankly, I'm actually hoping that she continues
in this direction. Yeah.
In this direction. Just in okay, so let's say her goal ultimately is, and I'm actually kind of hoping for this, her goal ultimately is that she wants to completely break and remove herself from that weird character of Poppy, from the YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And then she just wants to be her own thing. And it's in my mind, this is who I am. I am this pop metal artist thing.
I think that's the goal, because she was doing those YouTube videos all through the first two albums and the early EPs, and so there's been nothing like that with this album aside from the music videos.
Exactly.
So
but what I like about that is the fact that that weird character will still always be part of the lore of this, who she is.
Yeah.
And again, that's one of those things, and you have to be careful doing this. Obviously, there is a person here. This is a girl. But the character that she was part of creating, and the performer of her being this, pop metal thing, it's very blended. Because let's face it, what she could have done was break ties professionally with Titanic. God, I hate saying that.
I really hate this guy's name. I
was trying to avoid saying it, and I can't.
Yeah, no, you can't, because, based on the name alone, I'm glad she's not working with this guy anymore. What a terrible name. Titanic Sinclair.
What she could have done, though, was break ties with Titanic, change her performing name, and literally start over. But she's not. And maybe I'm wrong, but I'm thinking that's probably a conscious decision.
Yeah.
I think there is a reason that she wants to keep that. And I think part of it is the fact that this project is now going to be about her dismantling this previous iteration of herself. I think in a weird way, I think she's continuing the weird performance art thing, but she's doing it by making it no longer performance art, I guess you could say.
Well, and again, Anything Like Me, I've seen it claimed that it's about Mars Argo, but it also sounds like it could just be about Titanic Sinclair's influence in general. I feel her heart beat in me, please get her out, or whatever the line is.
I feel her heart beating in me. Get her out of me. Sorry for what I've become, because I'm becoming someone.
Yeah, something along those lines.
But
again, I was unaware of the whole Mars Vargo side of this situation. So I didn't even think about the fact that it might be about someone else,
Yeah, well, and I think you could chalk that up to, though, just his influence in general, because he made both characters very similar. They're both just these kind of subservient, quiet women.
god, that is really creepy.
He's really creepy in retrospect. Like, it's not good stuff. And you look at the stuff like Mars Argo said. Like, I don't want to get into the Mars Argo Poppy feud part of it, because the way I see it, like, even if they are having bad blood, it's because of this dude. Like,
yeah, and that's also not relevant. Like,
yeah, that's not relevant.
That's not part of the Poppy lore, as far as I'm concerned.
But there's, like, if I remember correctly, Mars Argo uploaded video of him, like, breaking into her house late at night and, like, begging her to take him back and stuff. Like, this guy does not seem like a good dude. Okay, so I thought I'd make a quick editor's note for the sake of not spreading false information. The video that I was remembering is a video of Titanic Sinclair breaking a wine glass because Mars Argo won't give him her Facebook password. And the claim of him breaking into her house and punching her in the face was a claim that she made on, I believe, Instagram. There's no video of that, though. I just wanted to be clear that that was just a claim that she made, and the video is of him breaking a wine glass in, like, their kitchen over a Facebook password.
Yeah, that's really frustrating to think about, actually.
Yeah. It's not cool stuff.
Okay. I mean, I could sit here and rip apart track by track. I'm not going to, because, like I said, the weakest track on here is still a song that I'm probably going to go back and listen to.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and listen to this album a lot. I've already listened to this album a lot.
I'm so glad to hear that.
This probably is the best album we've listened to so far.
Album of the year.
In 1 week, or in 1 episode, we covered the best and worst albums of the year so far. Again, I realize it's only the end of March when we're recording this, but still. That's still pretty impressive to hit the high and low.
I don't know, man.
I mean, my high and low.
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah, that's fine. I don't know if I could put My Dying Bride, but I think I would listen to My Dying Bride again before LaRue. Even though that's not an album I liked by My Dying Bride, I'd still probably put that on again before LaRue.
This album by My Dying Bride. I don't think I've ever been more frustrated by an album.
You think you were frustrated?
Outside of it being...
I wanted to like it. You think you were frustrated?
I guess this is true.
You had no commitment to like it or not. This is a band that I enjoy putting out a subpar album.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot of wrap-up thoughts for Poppy here, other than the fact that, like, obviously I hope anyone who is curious, I really want you to go back, obviously, watch the videos we referenced in, you know, when we did the recording a couple, 2 months ago or whatever.
Yeah.
This is not an album you listen to. This is, like, a thing you have to experience, because it really is performance art through and through. And it's crazy from start to, well, not finished, but current day. And I love it. I love every second of it. And obviously I feel bad because I realize the real person that is Poppy. I keep forgetting her name. I even thought I wrote it down somewhere, but I didn't. I realized that a lot of this was a very awful situation for her to be in.
Her name is Maura Pereira.
Thank you. I was gonna say her name is really interesting.
I was gonna just kind of let it go because, like, for the longest time, anonymity was a part of Poppy, but, like, now it is all out there, so it doesn't really matter.
I also think that, again, I think this is her. Like, it was part of Poppy when she was just a performance artist. Obviously, she is making herself much, much more than that.
Yeah. And you look, like, back then, she used to do all of her interviews in character, and since then, she started to do a few of them here and there out of character.
Because, you know, she is actually a person. Like, she's not this puppet. She's not just this caricature. She's actually a person, and she's super interesting.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, I'm super excited to see where Poppy goes as an artist in general. And
on this heavy album, the 3 ballads are incredible too.
Oh, I mean, yeah, like I said, there's not actually a bad song on here.
Don't Go Outside is so relevant right now.
I was actually gonna say, God damn it. You know what? I have that written in my notes, but I actually skipped over it because I had 2 different points I was making that I wanted to tie together, and I have it written in the middle of just like, also, I really like the song Don't Go Outside because it's super relevant. Because you figure I only listened to that song for the first time. What was that? A week ago, I guess.
Yeah. I actually really like. I actually really like how at the end of that song it goes into a refrain of a bunch of different songs, like the "Let It All Burn Down" part of "Disagree," and then "You Can Be Anyone You Want to Be" from "Fill the Crown."
Oh yeah, okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. It's a very unique album. I mean, the idea of mixing pop and metal isn't new, but she really put her own style to it.
But she put her own style to it because, again, we're going to, like, this is a kind of pop and metal mixture that's fairly new.
Yeah, I mean, the only things I could really compare it to are Baby Metal and Devin Townsend, so those people are fucking crazy too.
Yeah, so obviously I also am going to have to throw in Iron Bunny, because I'm an Iron Bunny fan.
Iron Bunny, I don't know too much about them, but yeah, Iron Bunny.
You need to. They're phenomenal.
I know enough to agree.
This because obviously they are super influenced by Baby Metal. They're fitting the same formula. They're just more guitar driven, and they're more of like an 80s hard rock and not like thrashier metal. But regardless, this kind of mixture of pop and metal is so fun to me because it is all of the pop sensibilities. Most of it's like danceable in the weirdest way, even though it's like really extreme metal at times. It's not like thrash around music. At least it doesn't really feel like that to me. And the vocals really throw it off. I love the mixture of these very, literally, not to just use her name, but like very poppy sounding vocals over such harsh, extreme music is such a great contrast that I'm actually surprised wasn't really done before.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, the closest thing I can think of is like Devin Townsend's Empath, which, I mean,
yeah,
that guy's like a madman. So it's just such a really solid album, and it's just you wouldn't really expect some of this stuff to go as well as it does.
But it absolutely does. So, it's really an incredible mixture.
Album of the year.
I don't know if I'm going to say that because it is only March, but like this is definitely the best album we've listened to so far, I think.
So let me ask you something.
Okay.
Assuming the world rights itself within the next couple months, Poppy's coming.
No, I want to go see her.
Good. I'm really glad that you're with me on Poppy here. All right, we're gonna leave you all with a special treat. Jeff, tell us about the song we recorded. One we didn't even record it. An AI recorded it.
So we, using various AI bots, we put together. I said we can't really say we recorded. We put together a song. So there are AI bots that you can give very little information and it writes something on its own. So we use one of those. It's an automatic lyric writer to write the lyrics. And then about 10 years ago, I referenced this when we were talking about LaRue, was a program called Microsoft Songsmith, where you sing into your microphone connected to your computer, and it writes really bad music behind what you're singing. We also then used, not Microsoft Sam, but one of those other voice or text-to-voice programs. Put the three together, and you get the masterpiece song that we put together.
People say you can't criticize music until you create it, and now we've done it.
And I think it's a masterpiece.
Single of the year.
Chris, what's the name of the song? Puff Was the One. It was called Puff Was the One. I need to listen to this again. It's actually been a while since I've listened to Puff Was the One.
When Puff gives it free. When Puff heals it up. And the man thinks Puff got you all covered in white. Her lies had set me all out at the edge of the ground. Puff was the one who let me kiss his face. Puff was the only one I ever shared a laugh with. You left your keys hanging in the hallway, alone. She lets him in, she knows Puff will never leave cause Puff stole them all before. Heartbeats, But Puff can't resist. Sweet delicious smell. Must go further. The kids are desperate and they wanted to see him. They wanted to be like him. Puff was the one who let me kiss his face. Puff was the only one I ever shared a laugh with. You left your keys hanging in the hallway, alone. She lets him in, she knows Puff will never leave. Cause Puff stole them all before. And there's a raven in my soul, telling me to believe. Puff was the one who let me kiss his face. Puff was the only one I ever shared a laugh with. You left your keys hanging in the hallway, alone. She lets him in, she knows Puff will never leave. Cause Puff stole them all before. Puff was the one who let me kiss his face. Puff was the only one I ever shared a laugh with. You left your keys hanging in the hallway, alone. She lets him in, she knows Puff will never leave. Cause Puff stole them all before.
The podcast is over. Go home.
Thank God.